For those that are just joining us, the board meeting will start shortly. We have a few additional folks that will be joining us, and we'll get started here momentarily. So please bear with us for a minute. Okay, Mr. Girth, if you're ready to begin, I'll do the pre-meeting statement.
Yeah, go ahead.
Again, thank you for joining us today. My name is Vicki Earhart. I serve as Anderson Township's administrator. This is the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Township Trustees. The meeting is being convened virtually, telephonically, due to the COVID pandemic. We ask that participants mute their phones when they're not speaking and only unmute if they're going to speak either a department head or for residents during public forum. The agenda for today's meeting is on our website at andersontownship.org. You can click on the government tab at the top of the page, then trustees agendas to see the agenda. At this point, I will introduce the staff that are involved in this call and trustees. We have Trustee Chair Josh Girth, Trustee Andrew Pappas, Fiscal Officer Kenneth Dietz, our Law Director Margaret Comey, and Assistant Administrator for Operations Steve Sievers, and myself. The board will, I'll now turn it over to Mr. Girth to open the meeting. Just so you are aware, the board will more than likely adjourn to executive session. We'll return to the public portion of the meeting at 5:30. So with that, Mr. Girth.
Thank you, Vicki. And with that, I will move to retire to executive session to consider the appointment, promotion, or compensation of a public employee or official as permitted by the ORC, to consider the sale of properties permitted by the ORC, and to review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment as permitted by the ORC.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. We'll be back at 5:30, everyone.
My computer, so.
Good afternoon. My name is Vicki Earhart. I'm the Anderson Township Administrator. Wish to welcome you to the monthly meeting of the Anderson Township Board of Township Trustees. The meeting began at 5 o'clock. The board retired to exec, and before I return the meeting to Mr. Girth, I wish to ask that everyone who has joined us tonight that you mute your phone or mute your video if you're not speaking. This meeting is being held telephonically and virtually due to the COVID pandemic. The agenda for today's meeting is available on our website, andersontownship.org. If you click on the government tab at the top and then trustees agenda, you'll be able to locate the agenda for today's meeting. At each of our board meetings, we encourage folks to let us know that they're attending. You may do so by emailing Molly Moorfield. It's MOHRFIELD at andersontownship.org. If you'd like to, it's certainly not a requirement, but if you'd like to check in with us, that would be great. Again, this meeting is being held virtually and telephonically due to COVID. At this time, I'd like to introduce the elected officials and staff who are participating in this meeting today, including first and foremost, Trustee Chair Josh Girth, Trustee Andrew Pappas, and our Fiscal Officer, Mr. Kenneth Dietz. Other personnel include Assistant Administrator for Human Resources, Suzanne Parker, Assistant Administrator for Operations, Steve Sievers, our Law Director, Margaret Comey, Planning and Zoning Director, Paul Drury, Hamilton County Sheriff's Lieutenant Dan McElroy, Fire Chief Rick Martin, Fiscal Office Manager Debbie Hucker, our Facilities Manager Mark Magna, Planners Sarah Donovan and PJ Ginty, And again, Administrative Assistant Molly Moorfield, who is recording this meeting and will be preparing minutes. And now, thank you again for joining us. I now turn this over to Trustee Chair Josh Girth.
Thank you, Ms. Earhart. Good evening, everybody. I'd move to return from executive session.
Second. Second.
Mr. Pappas,
Yes.
Mr. Girth,
Yes. I'd like to everyone join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Many people in this township knew Janet Haywood. Janet, the longtime author and researcher who made Anderson Township history come to life on pages of the newsletter that she wrote, has unfortunately passed away over the weekend. For years, Janet shared historical photos and little-known information with the Anderson Insights readers in a section of that magazine every time it came out. Important places, interesting culture, long-lost families who called this area home. She was also the writer for the township's Throwback Thursday stories each week on Facebook, which, interestingly enough, gets our most attention on our Facebook social media pages. She was a member of the Anderson Historical Society and served a number of roles there, including research chair, when she moved back here in 2006. She is a native of Anderson Township, a descendant from one of the township's earliest families, graduated from Anderson High School in 1961 as the student honor student. She often referenced her youthful experiences in her writing, sharing fondly about this once rural community. As part of her work at the Historical Society, Haywood was also organized and wrote Images of America Anderson Township book just in time for our 225th celebration. Her tremendous effort was instrumental in many of the commemorations in our community, including the banners and other things that commemorated our history. We've benefited in a lot of ways from the diligence, curiosity, good nature, just overall good well-being from Janet in the years that she's been a part of our community. We've enjoyed many of the things that she's done, and she brought a lot of life back from the history of our township. So in the spirit of that, we want to take a moment to recognize her, a moment of silence. If everybody would join in doing that now. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I move to adopt tonight's agenda.
Second.
Mr. Pappas,
Yes.
Mr. Girth,
Yes. First on the agenda is our public hearing. This public hearing is for the Clough Pike Corridor Study Implementation Plan we've conducted. And I don't know, Paul or PJ, whoever's kicking this off, go for it.
Thank you, Josh. This is PJ Ginty, Planner 1 with Anderson Township Planning and Zoning Department. Before you today is the Clough Pike Implementation Plan. This has been really a year-long effort in conjunction with the Hamilton County Engineer's Office. This report and plan was prepared by Stantec Consultant Services. And this really was such a great opportunity for our residents in the township to be involved in this process. It started out as a survey when we received more than 800 different suggestions from motorists along Clough Pike. And I'm very proud to say that overall this plan garnered overall more than 1,000 responses from Clough Pike drivers and property owners. And I truly believe that this end product is representative of project incorporation, this input from staff and guidance from Hamilton County Engineer's Office. as well. So it's truly a collaborative effort between our residents, Hamilton County Engineers Office, and our staff as well. In all, a total of 34 different projects were identified as high priority, which we look to implement within the next few years. Both the signal timing and pavement marking project bundle are in the process of moving forward at this time, and funds have been encumbered for that from the 2020 TIF budget. So if there's any questions, there's a motion before you, a resolution before you to adopt this plan. If there's any questions or comments, please let me know.
Well, thank you, PJ. As this is a public hearing, we open the hearing for public input and commentary. So we will do so at this time. If you do have any comments, questions, please make sure you identify yourself and your address as part of your commentary. And you may do so at this time.
Hello, this is Guy Wolf at 6001 Stirrup. Am I off mute?
We can hear you, Guy.
Okay. Are there any highlights that you would care to show to a public gathering, some significant developments and benefits to the community on that plan?
Mr. Wolf, this is PJ Ginty, Planner 1. So as I mentioned in the presentation, there are 34 different projects that were considered high priority. And these high priority projects came out of the rounds of surveys and community input that was conducted. I know a lot of our public input was focused, and a lot of our effort and Stantec's effort was focused on the area of Clough Pike that's near Newtown Road and Bridle Road. We had looked at that area quite a bit and proposed a few different more long-term changes to that area. Steve, do you mind scrolling up to the high priority projects? We have those up there. Yeah, and one of the things that's later on in the agenda is the traffic signal timing study and proposed modifications to 5 different signals along the corridor. So this project was considered the most bang for our buck as far as being able to move traffic and pedestrians more safely along this corridor and alleviate any traffic congestion issues at those intersections. Another project that was looking to move forward within the next year or so is is the different pavement marking bundle that was suggested by Stantec. Again, this is something that could be accomplished under one contract. And again, it makes it implements a pedestrian safety aspect as well that was very well represented from our community members. We don't have the drawings on those. There are further drawings that are listed in this implementation plan that go through the details of really each project and possible funding sources as well. So there's the details are all here in this plan that's being presented this evening.
PJ,
Anybody else?
Steve Severs with Anderson Township. It may be helpful to note what I'm scrolling on the screen for those of you who are on the phone. This has all been published and is available on our website under the news section on the main page. It's also been shared via Facebook and other means. So this is the report that was produced in the fall. It continues to be on our website, and it will be on our website after this evening as well. So if there are questions, PJ's contact information is on there as well. Mr. Girth, I'm going to go ahead and try to unmute all just for a moment in case we've accidentally muted someone. I know that sometimes comes up. And of course, if someone is here and they're not able to speak, you can always enter the chat bar and enter a message, or you can contact us directly. I'll provide my number and you can call in and we can make sure we get that information into the record as well. 688-8604. And 688-8604 if by some reason you're not able to unmute yourself or speak this evening, now or during the public forum section.
Hi, this is Tony Becker with wife Susan Wheatley. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
It seems, looking over the plan, and there weren't too many questions really involving speed. We live on a section of Clough between Copperleaf and Newtown, and I notice people speeding well over the 40-mile limit, and I had put actually in this survey, I had to write it in because there was no question about speed, to lower the speed to 35 rather than maintain the 40, because people go 45, 50, 55. And is there any going to be any attempt to address this issue moving forward with the plan?
Hi, Tony. This is PJ Ginty, Planner 1 with Anderson Township. So there were a few different sections along Clough Pike, and in cooperation with the Hamilton County Engineer's Office, which addresses installing friction pavement along some of the different curves that are along Clough Pike. That's the more specific project that comes to my mind as far as addressing speed and the ability to control where a vehicle is going. And then, Steve, was there any project that came to your mind that addresses speed or speed limit specifically?
Thanks, PJ. There were a number of suggestions in the plan involving roundabouts as a way of slowing or calming traffic. And Tony, appreciate you joining us, and Susan as well. I recall we had the speed trailer out there in 2019 to collect some data, and you're in fact correct. I mean, that revealed the average speed was greater than the speed limit, which we actually don't normally see, and the peak speed. The difficulty with doing speed studies is oftentimes when the engineer's office does those, the speed studies indicate the speed limit should be higher. So it's sometimes counterproductive to do those. But the speed trailer, when it was placed out there, it basically had the highest effectiveness rate we've ever seen. At nearly 90% of cars slowed when they saw their speed. So it wasn't per se called out, but I think the idea of permanent notices like that, the long-term projects, though, as PJ would probably indicate, there was certainly a bell curve with regards to who is supportive of roundabouts. Just as many loved them as did not like them, and very few were in the middle. You had opinion one way or the other. That type of approach, whether it be at Turpin Hills Drive, Copperleaf, wherever it might be, would be one way of at least calming the traffic down, particularly in that area where you're located. Once you get west of the business district, and there's really no stopping you until you get to 32. So it's not necessarily called out. There are some long-term recommendations that allude to some of those, but I think that's something that we can take on outside of this plan, and particularly in the area where you're at. That's where I think the speed has been the biggest issue on Clough over the years.
Yes, Steve. Is there a lot of research on circles? It seems to me, just my own experience in driving through circles, it doesn't slow traffic down. It actually makes it more efficient for people to smoothly continue their rate of speed and really just handle volume and move, in other words, move quickly through a street, an avenue. And I just kind of question the legitimacy of the circles, really for anything other than just enabling large volumes of traffic to keep moving. Really, we live right on Clough. I would actually like to see traffic slow down. I don't mind seeing traffic jams from Newtown all the way to Route 32, because that means people are going slow, or they're going to find alternate routes.
It is certainly a dual edge. We had those discussions. PJ can probably allude to those where people said if you make it better on Clough, people will just come on Clough off of Beachmont or off of 32. So there is certainly induced traffic. But to your point, the areas where you're at now, Copperleaf is one in particular, heading, and I believe the speed as we studied it was faster going westbound on Clough in that area. There's no stopping now. So there's a left turn there into Turpin Hills or into Copperleaf. There's no left intersections going all the way to 30. So it's a pretty much uninterrupted speed unless someone's turning into a driveway, of which there are very few on the south side of Clough. So you already have that situation. I think that's where Stantec was discussing it, because it would help slow down that way. It also would help some of the traffic coming out of the side streets, particularly Turpin Hills and others. But I think that's something independently that we can look at, and you're correct. I don't recall PJ speed. I mean, it was noted on a few, but it wasn't pervasive.
No, and going through the survey results, and Tony, I'd be happy to share these with you and they've been on our website and everything as well. But I don't recall if speed was one of the overarching themes here. And with the roundabouts, particularly addressing the safety of the roundabouts, it was very critical to our staff and to our consultant that the pedestrian safety be addressed within the roundabouts as well. So being able to slow traffic down was definitely a consideration when in designing those specific roundabouts.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you could even add more signage, I think that would be helpful. But I've just noticed improving streets, people drive more quickly. Just Beachmont, now that's been renovated in terms of pavement, speed is actually increased, I think, on Beachmont Avenue now, because people get ahead of steam and they just they keep going. So just things to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anybody else? Not hearing anything. Steve, you don't have any notes or messages?
I am not seeing any, and my phone has been quiet, and I've tried to unmute. So I think we've provided that opportunity. Of course, to PJ's point, anyone has questions following up on this, if the board chooses to adopt this is going to be a long-term plan, and there's always short-term options that we can plug in as well, which we've done over the years and will continue to do.
Well, I think that's a good point. I mean, this is going to be a working project. And what I mean by that is an ever-changing project as we start to implement it. So the idea that people want to continue to provide input, suggestions, comments is certainly going to be part of the implementation of this. So anyone on this call should feel free to reach out to any of us at any time with suggestions. With that, I will close this particular public hearing. Andrew, any comments, questions?
No, you've covered it. I think that, Clough Pike getting as much feedback as possible. I'm sure we won't be able to please everybody, but it's very helpful to get as much feedback from our residents. And PJ mentioned it's gotten the most. So very happy to always get feedback from the residents regarding any improvements that they might have. With that, I move to adopt a resolution initiating the adoption of Clough Pike Corridor Study Implementation Plan.
Second.
Mr. Pappas? Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I want to also, at this time, take a moment to recognize our Anderson Township Planning and Zoning Department and Steve and others who have been part of this. You know, this is not something we needed to do. It's something that we did based on some feedback, based on the amount of interest that we've had. And we could have easily just ignored a lot of this stuff, but that's not who we are. It's never been who we are. Our staff is always, and I mean always, willing to listen to suggestions from our public. We work for them. And this is a perfect example of your local government doing the things above and beyond what the general description of their job is. And so I want to take a moment and I want to thank all the hard work that you guys have put into this. So thank you very much. With that, let's move on to presentations and recognitions. First up is the We Thrive Proclamation. Paul, I think you're handling that.
Thank you. This is Paul Drury. Usually in December of every year, Hamilton County Public Health holds a reception to honor the We Thrive communities who have met the criteria for being a We Thrive community throughout the past year. In 2020, they were unable to do this because of COVID, so they did a virtual celebration. And before you tonight, we do have a video that was produced by Hamilton County Public Health. Hopefully it'll work with Steve. To honor the township and recognize them for their efforts to continue the We Thrive initiatives. For those of you that are new to the We Thrive committee and program, it is a citizen-led committee. On township staff is Sarah Donovan. She staffs the committee and is assisted by Brad Powers. And then Dee Stone is our trustee liaison. But the intent of the We Thrive Committee is to help create healthy environments for all residents through a variety of community events, community projects, through healthy concepts in transportation, such as our trails program, through community events, such as our Great American Cleanup, and things that bring our community together. So in 2020, a lot of those events and activities had to be rethought because of COVID. But our committee continued to meet regularly, virtually, and revisit our plans for 2020, had to shift their ideas, but we're still able to achieve quite a lot. So Steve has this video, maybe? He's going to try.
1 second, please.
And this is a recognition video from Hamilton County Public Health.
I don't think we have volume, guys.
Okay, well, no volume. We will post this video on our website, and hopefully it will be able to see it on our website. But this is the 6th year that the township has been recognized for being a We Thrive community.
Congratulations.
They're good.
That 2020 has been far from a normal year, but you have not let it stop you. Despite the challenges thrown your way due to COVID-19, you rose to the challenge and found creative ways to keep We Thrive moving forward. We thank you for your adaptability and creativity. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Anderson Township, for leading year 6 recognition requirement. All right.
We'll post it online.
All right, good stuff. Thanks, Paul. Next up, I think Eric.
Hey, thanks, Josh. Good evening, Eric Luganville, Public Works. This evening, we'd like to recognize Don Tilley for his 20 years of service with the township. Don started working for the township in November of 2000 as a entry-level maintenance worker. Worked his way up through the ranks to a level 2 worker, which is one of our equipment operators. Spent many years there in that position, and then for the last 8-9 years, Don has been a lead man for the South Side crew that takes care of everything from Beachmont down to the river on the south side. Don was always a very self-motivated, hardworking guy. He was always a very good co-worker to the people in the township, good friend with a lot of people in the township. If Don's not here with us tonight, if he were here, I'd ask him to jump in at this point and say a few things on his behalf, but and hope none of us got in trouble. But Don is not here. He's already taking full advantage of his retirement time. He left last weekend to go spend a few weeks in his cabin in the hills of, or actually in the mountains of West Virginia. So he was going to go down there, and as he said, I'm going to unwind and relax and just try and figure out what I want to do next. But I think everybody would like to wish Don a very well-deserved, long, happy, and healthy retirement. He's deserved it.
Absolutely. Thanks for making the presentation. Congratulations to him. Anybody want to say anything else about him?
No, I wish I would have known his last day, but I will definitely miss seeing him running up and down Beachmont. It always was, always got a wave, and was a very, very great employee of the township, and can't say enough good things about him. He's just a great guy.
Yeah, I'll chime in here. Yeah, Don was always one to give you a smile no matter what. He was great at going out plowing the streets and making sure that the residents got that wave and smile even when it was, he was plowing for hours on end. So he will definitely be missed. He was a great employee, and I'm glad that he's taking his time in the mountains. It's well deserved.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything? Okay. With that, we will move into the public forum. At this time, if anybody has anything they would like to address the board with, please do so. And Steve, if you want to try and unmute everybody, go for it.
Hey, this is Guy Wolf again, 6001 Stirrup. I raised my hand. I don't know if you have an order to this. I'll go ahead.
Go for it.
All right. Well, I'd like to share some really good news with the community about an Anderson Township trustee decision that was made back in February of last year. This was regarding a proposed planned unit development, or PUD, at 5531 Clough Pike. It was near the western entrance to the township. This PUD proposal called for placing 66 housing units with lot sizes as small as 5,500 square feet in an area zoned A with a minimum standard of 20,000 square feet per lot. And after multiple spirited zoning hearings that eventually approved that zoning, an appeal was made to the trustees. Thankfully, the trustees reviewed this decision very thoughtfully and with careful consideration of the process as followed. It resulted in a decision on February 27th to overrule the zoning board's approval and to stop the development from proceeding. Subsequent to that trustee decision, the developer then appealed to the Hamilton County Court of Common Pleas in an effort to get the trustee's decision overturned. Then, earlier this month, the court issued a dismissal of that appeal based on the request of the developer itself. So the trustee decision to stop that 66-unit planned unit development stands. And that's great news for everyone who lives near or drives through that portion of Clough Pike. And it also gives hope that the next proposed development for that area will be one that enhances the beauty and safety of the township and is in harmony with the nearby properties and zoning of the area. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Guy. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. With that, I will close the public forum section of our meeting. Andrew, anything you'd like to comment on?
No, I'd just like to once again thank staff for everything that they've done during this COVID pandemic. And I know that with the rollout of the vaccine, I hope that people will contact the Hamilton County Health Department. And if you're able to get put on the list by your age, do so. This pandemic has really impacted our country in ways that going to take years to probably come to full effect. But, you know, as the vaccine becomes available, if you're able to and you're inclined to, please don't delay. I think the faster we get this behind us and back to some semblance of normal, the better off we're all going to be. The impacts, as I said, I don't think are going to be fully realized for years and years. So, but our staff really has gone above and beyond. I mean, you know, we say it constantly, and I'm not here just to make them feel good. That's for sure. But our staff definitely keeps the township rolling. Mr. Guy, Mr. Wolf, definitely. You know, all this stuff took place during a pandemic, or a lot of it, and the business of the people kept getting done. So my hat's off to the staff. I can't say that enough. It's not been easy doing these remote meetings and operating remotely, but they've made it as seamless as possible. They have my thanks.
Well said. I think the only thing I would add is that in addition to the pandemic, there's a lot of other things going on in this township and in this world that are getting overlooked. And certainly am not here to minimize the fact that this pandemic is literally killing people. But there is other things going on in this world that are just as devastating. And I would ask that, and our staff knows what I'm talking about, that people keep that in mind as they continue to live their lives. Mr. Wolf, I appreciate your commentary. I think that on top of the Clough Pike corridor study shows that we are not a board that is rubber stamping things as we've been accused of doing in the past, nor are we a board that is straight with our own agenda to do things that go against what the overall health and wellness of this community is meant to do. So I appreciate your comments because we don't get to hear that a whole lot. With that, let's move into the fiscal officer report. Ken Dietz.
Thank you, Josh. Our end of year reports indicate, as we had stated in the last meeting in December, we thought we were going to come in under budget. We actually originally budgeted an amount of money, and the expenses came in 6.5% lower than those estimates. But we also had some areas where we felt like we would need increases. And even with the encumbrances where they are, they were about $4 million. With the increases that we anticipated, we're still like 7% below expenditures to the budgets in 2020. So that's usually been the case, and it was a tough year to figure out what was going on, but 7% is pretty darn good considering all the things we had to endure. The revenues came in well above what we had anticipated also, and they were 5 to 6% more than we had anticipated. So in both those areas, that's what we would like to see. Expenses lower than budget and revenues a little bit higher than we estimate. And we're a little conservative in our estimates, but still that helps us balance the books at the end of the year. We have no appropriation changes. We're only a couple weeks into the 2021. We will have to come up with a permanent budget within the next 2 months. So in the March regular meeting, I will ask for an approval of a budget. So we have a lot of work to do between now and then. We'll probably meet a lot with the administration and department heads to finalize those numbers. And it's an ongoing process. We have a little bit better information now than we had when we set the temporary budget back in July of last year. So we'll be anticipating a lot of work there, and hopefully we'll have a good budget for you. Other than that, we have 5 sets of minutes I think we need to approve.
I move we approve the minutes of October 15th, 2020, November 5th, 2020, November 19th, 2020, and December 3rd, 2020.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes. I know we have another set of meeting minutes from November 16th. I don't think Mr. Pappas was present, and since Dee is not here, I assume we'll just defer that.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Ken.
We'll bring those up again.
From Law Director Office.
No report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul, Planning and Zoning.
Thank you. The first item under our agenda is a request to postpone 2 zoning hearings that were scheduled for tonight. This is case 3, 2020 Anderson, 1357 Nagel Road, and case 2, 2018 Anderson, which was a substantial modification for 5218 Beachmont. The Nagel Road, the zoning commission did recommend approval. However, the applicant is looking to possibly revise some elements of their plan. So they have requested a continuance until February. And then the Skytop case was continued by the zoning commission. So it will be heard next Monday before the zoning commission. So therefore, we're requesting that both of these be postponed until your February 18th meeting.
I move to make a motion to postpone a public hearing previously set for Thursday, January 21st, 2021 to Thursday, February 18th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at Anderson Center, 7855 Mile Road, Anderson Township, Ohio, or virtually if so advertised for the purpose of hearing case number 3-2020 Anderson.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
I also move to set a public hearing for Thursday, February 18th, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. at Anderson Center, 7855 Mile Road, Anderson Township, Ohio, or virtually if so advertised for the purpose of hearing case number 2, 2018 Anderson substantial modification.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item is back to the We Thrive Anderson Committee. As you know, after the creation of the committee in 2018, in early 2019, the board approved 3 additional pathways that became subcommittees of the We Thrive Committee, and these included social health, environmental health, and injury prevention. These follow in lines with the structure that has been set by Hamilton County Public Health. So these 3 subcommittees made great progress, and the action plan was for a 2-year plan for 2019 and 2020. And as we stated earlier, some of the goals for 2020 and some of the events planned by the We Thrive Committee had to be delayed, and hopefully it will occur in 2021. So before you tonight is an action plan for the years 2021 and 2022. The 3 main goals in this plan are the community art plan, the community connections, and air quality. Community connections relate to different events that bring the community together, such as our Garden and History Tour or our Great American Cleanup, or there's also a proposed bike rodeo that we were planning to do in 2020, but it's also been postponed. Thank you, Steve. So this is in your packet. Sarah is also on the call if you do have additional questions. There's also a resolution for your consideration to adopt the action plan for 2021-2022.
Move for the adoption of We Thrive Anderson 2021-2022 action plan.
Second.
Mr. Pappas,
Yes.
Mr. Girth,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the consideration of an art plan consultant. This was one of those projects that was delayed from 2020, and we hope to revive in 2021. There were 2 proposals that were submitted from consultants for the community art plan. We held interviews on Tuesday, January the 12th. The interview panel included Brad Bowers, Sarah Donovan, Dee Stone, who was our trustee liaison, We Thrive committee members Susan Wheatley and Pinky Kokocious, and myself participated in these interviews. From our interviews, the interview panel recommends the design team of Designing Local for our consultant for the community art plan. And there's a motion for your consideration.
I move to authorize the town administrator to enter into a contract with Designing Local as the consultant for the community art plan in an amount not to exceed $39,942 using funds encumbered from the 2020 budget.
Second.
Mr. Pappas,
Yes.
Mr. Girth,
Yes.
thank you.
Did we lose Paul?
Oh, you're muted.
I was on a roll. Sorry about that, my mouse. And that was a good presentation too. So so following up on PJ's presentation earlier on the Cleft Pike implementation plan, we have received a proposal from Stantec to advance the signal timing modifications and pavement marking project bundle. This would allow us to start that project and potentially implement that at the end of this year. So there's a motion before you for your consideration.
I move to authorize the township administrator to enter into agreement with Stantec Consulting Services to complete a traffic signal timing study and subsequent modifications to 5 signalized intersections along the Clough Pike for a cost not to exceed $47,500 using 1994 TIF funds encumbered from 2020. Josh.
Sorry. Second.
Mr. Pappas,
Yes.
Mr. Girth,
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we had tonight.
Thanks, Paul. Lieutenant Dave McElroy.
This is Lieutenant McElroy. Can you hear me?
We got you.
So I'm bringing before the board a liquor license request. That'd be a D5 liquor license request by Stark Global Financial. That'd be Papa's Seafood and Spirits, located at 7480 Beachmont Avenue. This will be a new business coming to Anderson Township. And the Sheriff's Department has no objection to this liquor license request.
What was the name of that place again?
Papa's Seafood and Spirits.
You know, it sounds catchy. I really do like the name. I move not to object to a new liquor license request for Starks Global Financial Investments, LLC, DBA, Pappas Seafood and Spirits, 7840 Beachmont Avenue.
Mr. Pappas, if I could, there is a representative from Starks Global and Pappas Seafood and Spirits on the line. If you'd like to make any comments.
Go for it.
Yes, good afternoon to all the members of the committee. Thank you for taking the time to review my request for a liquor license. I just wanted to go briefly through some of the questions that were presented in the letter. The reason, of course, is the new business. We look to join the Anderson Township family and generate jobs, of course. The hours of operation would be Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. with last call being at 9, Friday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. with last call being at 10 p.m. We plan to be closed on Sundays. The type of food is a seafood restaurant. Anticipated clientele, of course, Anderson Township, surrounding counties, working professionals, retirees, and everyone in between. We want to create a family-oriented environment, one that develops a sense of community, because we're at a time now where we need each other more than ever. You know, a lot of us have dealt with losses and there's so many uncertainties with the virus. I think it's the time for us to pull together as a community, you know, as much as we can, because we need each other during this time. And that's the type of environment that I want to create at Papa's Seafood and Spirits. Policy regarding minors in the establishment. Minors are allowed to enter, but they must remain away from the main bar. They're not allowed to sit at the bar, nor tables that surround the bar. So we will have designated areas for families. The sixth question is state prior liquor violation you've had in its resolution. I've never had a liquor permit in any state. This is my first time applying for a liquor permit. And the anticipated noise level, I would say about 30 decibels. You know, studies show that customers don't like to be in a noisy, you know, environment. So we will be very cognizant of the noise level and make it comfortable for patrons. And once again, I thank everybody for their time. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being on the call. I think that's the most in-depth liquor permit request we've ever had. So I appreciate you to doing that. And ma'am, let me tell you, we are very excited. We love new restaurants in Anderson Township. And I can tell you that we can pass a $50 million budget and not get one response. But someone puts in a new restaurant in this neighborhood and social media and other places go crazy. So I'm sure you're going to get a bunch of hopefully positive attention right out of the gate from our community. So welcome to Anderson Township.
Thank you, sir.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. I don't think there's anything in public works. So Chief Martin, you're up.
Good evening. The fire department is requesting authorization to donate obsolete fire equipment to the Career and Technology Education Centers of Licking County for their non-firefighting training purposes. This is equipment that is obsolete, unfit for actual emergency response, and has no monetary value to the township, but can be used by students in their training activities. We respectfully request your consideration of the related resolution before you this evening.
I move to adopt a resolution authorizing the disposition of firefighting equipment pursuant to section 50510A7 of the revised code.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that comes back to Mr. Earhart.
Yes, thank you. And Mr. Magna is going to be presenting the first two items for the board's consideration.
Thank you. The first item I have for your consideration is a motion to accept the proposal from KBA Architects to produce bidding and construction documents for the Anderson Parks Rexplex parking expansion in the amount of $28,800 plus a 10% contingency, and this is funded through the Stonecrest TIF. I can answer any questions you might have.
All good. I move that this board hereby accept the proposal of $28,800 from KBA Inc. for the Anderson Park Recplex parking expansion, together with a 10% contingency for a maximum appropriation of $31,680 funded out of the Stonecrest TIF funds. And further, this board hereby authorizes and directs the township administrator consultation with the law director to enter into contract with KBA for the Anderson Park Recplex parking expansion.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item I have for consideration is a motion to accept a proposal from Choice One Engineering to produce bidding construction documents for the Fire Station 10 driveway replacement in the amount of $6,300 plus a 10% contingency. This will be funded out of the Riverfront 1 TIF. We solicited multiple civil engineers, and they were the lowest, and we vetted their proposal, and we recommend the award. I can answer any questions.
I move that this board hereby accept the proposal of $6,300 from Choice One Engineering for the Fire Station 10 driveway replacement, together with a 10% contingency for a maximum appropriation of $6,900 funded out of Ohio Riverfront 1 TIF funds. And further, this board hereby authorizes and directs the township administrator, after consultation with the law director, to enter into contract with Choice One Engineering for the Fire Station 10 driveway replacement.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have three items for the board's consideration arising from executive session discussion. The first two are personnel related. As the board recognized Don Tilley upon his retirement earlier in the meeting, we are now looking at a proposal that Mr. Luganville has presented that administration supports that would promote two individuals within the Public Works Department to fill not only Mr. Tilley's position, but then to move somebody up into the position of the operator. So there is a motion before you for your consideration regarding road maintenance department personnel changes.
I move to authorize the following personnel changes in the road maintenance department. One, the promotion of Rob Graves to the leadman position, and two, the promotion of Keith Heilman to an operator position.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Garth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Both of those individuals are going to do a great job for the township, so I appreciate your support. The next item also involves some changes in personnel, and this is related to the fire and rescue department. For the public's consumption, the Fire and Rescue Department has 3 battalion chiefs. We have our fire chief, an assistant chief, and then 3 battalion chiefs. Those battalion chiefs supervise firefighters who work 24 hours on and 48 hours off. So hence 3 battalion chiefs, 1 for each day to supervise the firefighters. They also have roles. 1 battalion chief oversees fire training. 1 battalion chief oversees the support division apparatus, that type of thing. And the 3rd battalion chief oversees our EMS operations. We have seen a significant increase in EMS responses since 2003. Looking at overall responses, including fire, there were about 3,300 responses a year in 2003. Looking ahead to this year, this year, we're about 5,200 runs a year, which is about a 60% increase. Of those, anywhere between 72 and 77% on an annual basis are EMS related. Our EMS battalion chief not only has to oversee the shift, the firefighters, and the daily operations, but he also has been involved in overseeing EMS. And I'm sure that you can all imagine with COVID and everything that we have been going through this last year, that job has become all-consuming. So what we have here is a proposal from Chief Martin that Township Administration fully supports that would take our EMS battalion chief from a 24, 48-hour schedule, put him on a 40-hour per week schedule so that he could focus on EMS and on the response to the COVID pandemic. It would also assign another individual, promote another individual into the battalion chief role so that we would maintain 3 battalion chiefs overseeing day-to-day operations and create the 4th battalion chief position that would focus solely on EMS. If the board approves that promotion, that also would lead to another position where we would have a firefighter promoted to lieutenant to fill the ranks. So it's kind of backfilling. There is a motion before you for your consideration.
Excuse me. I move to authorize the following personnel changes in the Fire and Rescue Department effective January 24th, 2021. Number 1, Battalion Chief for the EMS Division, Chris Kasperzik, is reassigned to a 40-hour work week. Number 2, the promotion of Brian Carlson from Lieutenant to Battalion Chief of the Support Division. Number 3, the promotion of Douglas Egan from Firefighter 6 to Lieutenant.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you again for your support on this. It is a critical position most years and even more so now. So thank you. The last item we have for the board tonight relates to property. There is a resolution before you that would ratify action taken with regard to an amendment to a purchase and sale agreement.
Move to adopt a resolution approving the First Amendment to real property purchase and sale agreement with Zika Development Company, LLC, and authorizing and ratifying action taken with respect thereto.
Second.
Mr. Pappas?
Once again.
Mr. Pappas?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all we have for the board this evening.
Thank you, everyone. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting will be February 18th, 2021, 5 p.m. We'll start with executive session. If there's nothing else, then I would move to adjourn.
Mr. Pappas?
Second. Yes.
Mr. Girth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.